Hi everyone, welcome to rightgurukul.com. Today we are going to build simple and useful projects from expense tracker using Python and Tkinter. It's a great beginner project for those looking to learn how to manage user inputs, save data, and create a GUI applications. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functioning expense tracker that lets you add and view all your expenses right from your desktop. Plus, it's super easy to customize and expand it. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new tutorials. And as always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I will be more than happy to help you. All right, let's dive into the first thing first. We need to import Tkinter library and set up the main window. Tkinter is a Python's built-in library for creating graphical user interfaces, and it's perfect for small project like this one. Here, I'm importing these two libraries and the message box. Before we continue with the coding part, I wanted to show you these applications and post that we understand how I build it from scratch. Now, let me run this code. Here, I will just click on brand and hit expense tracker. You can see the window appears. From here, I can add expenses name. Let's consider I'm buying mobile phone. Here, I will add mobile phone and in next sections, I will add 25,000. We'll click on add expenses. This expense will be added and I will get a message box. Another one, let's consider I'm buying for laptop. This expense I'm adding as again 30,000 add expense that's added. Now, if I wanted to view expenses, I can see whenever I will click on this, I will have those expenses available. But even we can store these expenses into the Excel file. So this is just for the prototype, giving you an example. Let's see how we can create it from scratch. After importing all those functions, let me create main window for these applications where I will add root tk.tk functions and the title I wanted to provide here as expense tracker. In terms of window geometry, I wanted to keep this into 400 into 400. So it will create the main window and given it a title and size. Now let's design the interface where user will enter inputs of their expenses. For our expense tracker, we need a couple of input fields. One of the name of the expense and another one is the amount. We'll also add two buttons for adding the expenses or for viewing the expenses. That here we are creating store expenses as the arrays. And inside this, I wanted to add functions to add all those expenses. So here I'll add the expenses. Name will be expense name entry.get. So this will get the name of the expenses and amount is taking the amount expense. In the conditions failed, if fields are already failed, then it will throw an input error. Please fill both the fields if I'm trying to just add one field at a time. And the same thing happens with the appends. So expense.append will be added along with name and amount. So this is going to be added as a field. And if I will click on clear the fields, it will delete all those entries. So these buttons are added for adding the expenses. After that, here we'll create functions which holds label for view expenses. If no expenses exist, I will get an error like no data available. So we created labels. and enter fields for the expense name and amount, and edit two buttons, one to add an expense, another to view all expenses. Now we'll move on to the functionality that powers this button. So let's write the functionality to handle adding expenses. We'll store the expenses name and the amount in list and show the confirmations message. So here, if you can see, this is my list area where I will add labels and enter fields for the all the expense name and amount, which will be packed under label. So first is my expense name, second is amount, and this is the final text box I'm getting it. And finally, the width for the button. So here we have two buttons adding the expenses. And finally, we wanted to show the message box. So whenever any error occurs, we will get the expense value. So expenses append features will append the data and message box will be populated if expense will get added. And if we are doing some errors, then these expenses will pop up a message. So expense name entry delete dot tk and amount entry delete. All this informations we can also include it. So in the add expense functions, we first get the values from the entry fields and check if both the fields are filled. If they are, we store the expenses in a list and display a confirmations message. If not, we'll want the users to fill in both the fields. Now, let's add view expenses functions, which we have. So view expenses functions, here we are adding it. So in view messages, it will check if there are any expenses present. If the list is empty, we show a message box. Otherwise, we format and display all the added expenses into the message box. That's it. And finally, we have the main loop to launch the applications and run it. So let's run it again and see the result. Here we have this applications and now we got this window. Again, let me add one expense here where first I will click on view expenses. I don't have any informations. Let's consider I wanted to add 2000 here on the expense. You can see please fill in both the fields. Let me consider adding this. This expense will be added because we have not given any validations, any field validation. That's reason it will accept anything. If you want, even we can customize it. So I will add few expenses and try to view the report or result we'll get it exactly working fine. As you can see, the expense tracker is working smoothly. It's a simple app, but there's a lot of potentials for expansions. As I mentioned, you could add categories for each expenses, calculate totals, or even save the data to a file so you can track your expenses over time. Now, what features would you like to add to these expense tracker? Would you want to save your data to a CSV file or maybe have graph to visualize your spending? Let me know in the comments below. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed building this expense tracker with me. It's a great starting point for creating more advanced app into the future. If you have any questions about the code or if you are stuck somewhere, feel free to ask in the comments. I would love to hear your idea. So let me know what improvements or new features would you like to see in this. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Happy coding.